Have you ever been told you're too much, too loud, too sensitive, too intense? Cynthia Erivo, Emmy, Grammy, and Tony Award winner, was once called too talkative and too forward as a child. But she discovered a powerful truth. What people criticizing you early on is often a sign of your greatest strength. In her brand new book, Simply More, Erivo shares why embracing your full, authentic self might just be the most courageous and liberating thing you'll ever do.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we've really immersed ourselves in a truly exceptional new book. It's the memoir Simply More by the incomparable Cynthia Erivo.
It is. And our mission, as always, is to navigate this material for you. We've read it so you don't have to. And we're going to pull out the most vital lessons and insights.
So you can walk away feeling like you've really gotten to the core of it.
And this is such a timely deep dive. I mean, Cynthia Erivo is everywhere right now.
Absolutely. A Grammy, an Emmy, a Tony Award-winning force of nature.
And, of course, soon to be Elphaba in that wicked film everyone is waiting for.
Right. But this book is so much more than just a list of her achievements.
Oh, it's a manifesto. It's deeply personal, profound, and honestly, it's a challenge.
It is. And you can feel the book's power right from the very beginning in the way she frames it.
She starts with the backlash, doesn't she?
She does. She talks about playing Jesus in the arena tour of Jesus Christ Superstar, and she details the outrage, the judgment that critics threw at her.
Because she was a black queer woman taking on that, that specific spiritual role.
Exactly. And that controversy becomes the engine for the entire book.
It's the perfect setup for her core message, which is, for a lot of people, just existing in your full, authentic self means you are inherently too much.
Or, as the title says, simply more than they are comfortable with.
Yes. So this book is her blueprint for defying all of that. It's about how she learned to own herself, her gifts, her identity, especially during really challenging times.
And her core belief seems to be that the path to success isn't about shrinking yourself to fit in.
No, it's the opposite. It's about expanding until you can no longer be ignored. It's a call to be the fullest, most authentic version of yourself, no matter what it costs.
It sounds intense.
It is. It's demanding. And it's very focused on the work required to get to that level of self-acceptance. We're going to unpack the discipline, the trauma, the friendships, all of it.
Okay, so let's get into it. The first thing that really permeates the book, and this one might be surprising to some, is the sheer physical discipline she embraces.
Yeah, specifically through running. Chapter 1 is all about it. And she draws this intense, beautiful parallel between running a marathon and living a full life.
How does she even get into running in the first place?
She describes it as almost a pure instinct. She just saw a sign for a 5K for cancer research, and she just knew she had to do it.
No overthinking, just a gut feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that became a foundational lesson for her right away. Stop overthinking and just let that visceral desire lead you where you need to go.
And it wasn't just about fitness for her.
Not at all. Running became her form of what she calls dynamic becoming. It requires constant change, control, and then at the end, surrender.
It quickly turned into a form of meditation. I think she mentions running 2 official marathons.
2 full marathons, and she was logging 15 to 25 miles a week in training. But there's this one detail that I found just fascinating.
What's that?
The advice she got from her osteopath, a woman named Fabi.
Oh, I remember this. Fabi told her to run with no input, right?
None. No music, no podcasts, no distractions at all. The only thing she was allowed to listen to was her own body.
That's radical advice in today's world.
It is, but it served a very specific purpose. It forced her to check for strength and support internally, to connect her physical self to this, deep well of wisdom and insight.
It's a kind of biofeedback, really.
That's a great way to put it.
By getting rid of the external noise, she could do this internal audit every time her foot hit the pavement. How does my hip feel? Am I favoring one side? Am I letting my breath control me? Or am I controlling it?
And that immediate self-diagnosis allowed her to notice the tiniest shifts, which for a long-distance runner is absolutely critical.
And she argues that this practice translates directly into her professional life.
Absolutely. The biggest lessons, she says, often came from the days she really didn't want to run.
Ah, the resistance.
She calls those the days she learned the most. Overcoming that internal no, pushing past that resistance, almost always led to the best runs. It's about refusing to let inertia win.
That refusal brings us to this formal strategy she learned, something she applies universally.
The Quin-10-10 marathon rule, from her coach, Julia Lucas.
Right, and it's a framework for tackling any huge, intimidating goal.
It's just a beautiful way to organize something as overwhelming as a 26-mile race or a lifetime.
So let's break it down. The first 10 miles.
The first 10 are run with the head. Metaphorically, this is childhood and early training. You're figuring things out, understanding your body, settling into a rhythm that you can actually sustain.
So you have to be smart, cautious, analytical.
And you have to avoid that classic trap of starting out way too fast.
Okay, then you transition. The second 10 miles.
The second 10 are run with the legs. This is the hard work of early adulthood. This is where you apply all the training and strategy you've internalized.
So it's pure muscle memory, both physical and mental.
It is. You're just putting in the miles, living in the physical reality of the effort. It's where your resilience is truly, truly tested.
And then the final stretch, the last 6.2 miles.
The hardest part. And that stretch is run entirely with the heart.
With the heart.
This is the phase where you have to let go of the need for control. You have to allow all the strength you've built up over the entire journey to just carry you.
So this is the rest of life.
It is, relying on all that wisdom you've accrued, the experience, and just fierce self-belief to get you across the finish line.
It's an incredible way to combat the intimidation of a big dream. Instead of seeing it as this single monolithic beast, you break it into 3 manageable phases.
Each requiring a different skill set, and she encourages anyone facing something daunting to adopt that mindset. Just start, and trust that the training you've already done will kick in when you need it.
But pushing those boundaries, it has a high personal cost. She talks about this after her huge success in The Color Purple.
Yes, this is a critical psychological moment in the book. All of a sudden, she develops this crippling flight anxiety.
And it manifested really intensely, right?
Oh yeah, pounding heart, trembling hands, this deep, pervasive fear. But she realized pretty quickly it wasn't really about the plane itself.
It was a manifestation of something deeper, an existential fear.
Exactly, a fear connected to expansion. With every slight, she was literally traveling farther and farther away from her old, comfortable life in London.
So the anxiety was her own mind trying to convince her to shrink back.
To scale back the dream, go home to a more manageable life. The sheer scope of her success was terrifying because it meant committing to this future that was vast and totally unknown.
And the breakthrough came when she started therapy.
At age 29. She notes that she didn't go to therapy for her career or her past. She just went to fix the immediate flight phobia.
But as it so often happens, the surface issue was just a signpost.
Therapy became a portal to the historical trigger. They very quickly uncovered that the root cause of her intense, constant striving, this career hamster wheel she couldn't get off, was the trauma of her father's abandonment.
When she was 16.
Yes. She had spent all those years trying to prove her worthiness to an absent figure by overachieving.
Wow. That's a fundamental revelation. To realize your professional discipline is warped by this primal need for external validation.
And identifying that historical trigger was like, as she says, pulling the plug on the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
The striving didn't just disappear overnight, she admits. Once an addict, always an addict.
But the goal shifted.
The goal shifted entirely. The work was no longer about proving something to someone else. It was about recognizing internally that she was and always had been enough.
And this self-fortification was absolutely essential for what came next, the biggest challenge yet.
Preparing for Elphaba in Wicked. The discipline she used was just extraordinary. She treated it like a boxer training for a title fight.
She only had 3 weeks to prepare for the audition.
3 weeks. So her method was total immersion. She needed the music and the dialogue to be so deeply ingrained that it became, in her words, part of her DNA.
Which meant running while singing the Wicked songs.
Over and over and over. To make sure she could deliver the material under extreme physical duress. It wasn't just physical training. It was integration.
She ran lines constantly.
Constantly. Sang them in the shower. She even tried to sing the songs underwater while swimming laps. She knew that simply knowing the music wasn't enough. She had to become the material.
And the physical reality of the role, once she got it, sounds brutal.
It was. She talks about the demands of flying, where the wires only provide support. The actor has to provide all the force for movement and direction.
And the harness
caused serious chafing, deep bruising. In one instance, she says she lost feeling in the skin of her left thigh because of the pressure.
Oof.
She really leaned on that famous Samuel Beckett quote, "Ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again, fail better.
So failing better meant pushing through the pain.
And understanding the biomechanics of flight, like realizing she had to put tension in her hips and legs to keep her flying straight. The failures were just lessons on how to endure and adjust.
But the universe had one last test for her.
A huge one. Filming got delayed by the 148-day writer's strike. All that momentum just drained away. And when the call finally came to return,
On her birthday, of all days.
she was immediately hit with the worst flu ever, completely incapacitated.
So she realized the universe was asking her a very direct question.
How badly do you want it? All the setbacks, the physical pain, the exhaustion was all part of the required earning process.
And she had to answer that question.
With a full-throated, resilient declaration, I want it with all that I am, it's just a powerful testament to the discipline that's required for that kind of expansion.
Okay, let's shift from discipline to identity. Because one of the central arguments of the book is her struggle against being labeled too much.
And how she ultimately transformed those perceived flaws into her greatest strengths.
Early in life, the criticisms were constant, weren't they?
All the time. She was told she was too talkative, too loud, too nosy, too curious. She tells this one very specific, painful story about her English class.
With Miss Casey.
A teacher she really admired. She was around 12, and Miss Casey, who she says smelled like coffee and floral perfume, asked her to leave the class.
Just for asking too many questions.
It's just for asking too many questions. And Erivo remembers this as her first real experience with genuine rage and betrayal. Like, why is the person who's supposed to foster learning telling me to be quiet?
And that word, too, just lodged itself in her consciousness.
It did. It began to shape how she saw herself. But she contrasts this with the profound support she got at home.
Right, from her Nigerian mother.
Who fostered this immense pride and treated her ambition with complete seriousness. She tells this hilarious story about her mother sending her on school trips with a flask of jollof rice and chicken.
Making sure she was well-fed and proud of her heritage, even if it made her stand out.
Exactly. And the revelation years later was just transformative, those twos. They were just the raw material of her adult brilliance.
The child who is too curious becomes the actress who delves deep into character psychology.
The one who was too loud now commands these massive Broadway audiences. She says very clearly, if she had successfully extinguished those qualities, she has no idea where she'd be today.
But this struggle for self-definition didn't stop in childhood. It continued right into her professional training at RADA.
Oh, absolutely. The Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. Even though she was accepted into this incredibly prestigious institution, her time there was just defined by friction and microaggressions.
She was one of only 4 Black students in her class.
Right, and she felt this constant weight of external projection. She was immediately typecast as the strong Black woman archetype.
The one who could handle all the drama and the pain, but not necessarily the ingenue or the romantic lead.
Anything outside those very narrow boundaries. But the most egregious example she gives relates to a financial crisis she had.
This story is infuriating.
It is. She came from a modest background, and she needed to secure her tuition. So she asked for 2 weeks off to earn 3 years' worth of tuition money by singing backing vocals for a professional gig.
And they denied her request.
Denied it outright. And the irony is just devastating.
Because a white peer.
A white peer from a very affluent background who had attended Eton was granted the exact same grace to leave for a period to do a play.
So she maintains this wasn't about a professional opportunity. It was about survival and systemic bias.
She felt punished. She was given the smallest roles, forced to work these exhausting evening gigs after her classes at RADA just to try and make up the shortfall. She'd often fall asleep in class from pure exhaustion.
And the lesson she took from that
was the absolute necessity of self-trust over external validation, especially when those external sources are fundamentally incapable of seeing your reality.
And this was all cemented years later by an email.
An email from the registrar, Patricia, the same one who had denied her the time off.
What did it say?
It was this deeply condescending email, congratulating Erivo on her choice to prioritize RADA over a professional opportunity.
She completely misremembered the event.
Completely. She reframed it as this professional sacrifice Erivo had chosen to make, rather than the desperate financial necessity that it was.
That email crystallized everything for her.
It did. The realization that some people will simply never get you. They'll rewrite your history to fit their own narrative. And her takeaway was, you have to let go of their perceptions and just pursue what is yours, whether they get it or not.
This philosophy of self-trust and subversion really comes to a peak in her portrayal of Celie in The Color Purple.
It really does. When the show moved to London, the British critics complained that her Celie wasn't decrepit or devastated enough.
They expected a version of the character who was completely broken and beaten down by life.
Which says a lot about a very one-dimensional view of trauma. And Erivo fought back against that idea, the idea that enduring pain means you can't also find sparks of joy.
She saw Celie's quiet, determined search for happiness as seismic.
And revolutionary. She adopted this metaphor of Celie as a magpie, ransacking her life, her relationships, her cooking, her environment, for tiny, shiny moments of radiance.
Joy in the face of immense pain becomes the ultimate act of rebellion.
As an outsider, Erivo observes, you are constantly hyper-aware of your surroundings. You notice the tiny specifics others miss, and by noticing them, you can't help but find these moments of glee. Celie's determination to be happy. That's her real strength, not her defeat.
But owning that strength can sometimes manifest as rage. She dedicates a whole chapter to this.
Chapter 39. An explosion of professional rage that, while it was terrifying for her, it provided an absolutely essential lesson in boundaries.
What triggered it?
A toxic manager who brought unauthorized people to watch her rehearsal right before a major performance, completely infringing on her private preparation space.
And when Erivo asked the manager why,
the manager just refused to answer, stonewalled her. And that refusal to answer immediately hit that historical trigger.
It replicated the trauma of her father's abandonment.
The one question she could never get an answer to. And she quotes that psychological axiom. If it's hysterical, it's historical. She just lost control completely.
A massive blackout outburst.
One that scared her, too. The manager immediately resigned and tried to blame Erivo entirely, chastising her for her dismissive, cold, irrational, weird, dark energy.
And that's the crucial lesson, isn't it?
It is. People who are invested in exploiting your energy will often blame you when you finally stand your ground. She realized she was just trying to establish a necessary boundary.
And the internal work of connecting the rage to the historical trigger allowed her to move past it.
And learn to hold those boundaries without dissolving into that rage. She learned that rage can be a source of temporary power, but true sustainable power comes from the boundary itself.
For Erivo, performance isn't just entertainment. She describes it as something sacred.
Almost spiritual. She outlines this in Chapter 3, viewing performance as this terrifying but necessary act of vulnerability.
She explains that to make a truly big, resonant sound, you have to be physically and emotionally open.
You have to open your mouth wide, sustain your breath by opening your body completely, and most importantly, you have to open your heart.
So you're giving this genuine, unguarded piece of yourself without any guarantee of how the audience will receive it.
That's the risk. That's the terror. But when that connection lands, when the audience meets her where she is, she says it feels like the walls are gone. A moment of unparalleled freedom and connection.
And this profound connection to sound goes even deeper for her, doesn't it? It's neurological.
Yes. She recounts being awed by performing John Rutter's Requiem and Carmina Burana in secondary school. The sound wasn't just something she heard, it was massive. It washed over her entire body.
And it wasn't until she was 20, reading Oliver Sacks's Musicophilia in drama school,
that she realized she had synesthesia.
The neurological condition where stimulating one sense leads to an experience in another. So for her, she physically feels and sees music in color.
She gives a striking example of singing backing vocals at a place called the Arts Club. She recalls singing a specific Florence plus the Machine song.
And it made the entire room look gold.
Covered in beautiful shimmering gold and yellow. The people, the walls, everything. She couldn't explain why she was drawn to performing that song over and over, only that her solar plexus demanded it, because the color she saw was so magnificent.
Understanding that connection, that her art is literally a physical, colorful experience, is so critical to her ownership of her voice.
Which brings us to one of the most humiliating moments of her RADA training.
Yeah.
The moment that was the real catalyst for her decision to own that gift, absolutely.
The musical company.
Yes. As her training was ending, she was cast in it. And when two of her peers with larger roles fell sick, Erivo expected to step up and cover them.
But instead,
she was asked to sing backstage, hidden from the audience, while the sick girls lip-synced her voice on stage.
It's just a staggering indignity.
Her voice, her deeply personal, colorful gift, was being literally erased from public view. Appropriated by others who were getting the credit and the visibility, she was utterly devastated and humiliated.
And when she handed back the microphone after that performance run,
she made a silent vow. She would never, ever allow herself to be erased or overlooked again. That moment was the fundamental catalyst for stepping fully into herself and claiming the immense power of her gift.
And the full circle moment, of course, is that she is now the vice president of the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts.
She has literally re-entered the institution that tried to minimize her, but this time in a position of authority, a testament to how her perseverance redefined her standing.
That decision to own her gift also extended to her appearance, especially her hair.
A huge part of it. She realized that for years, she had used long hair as a shield, a kind of artifice to hide behind.
So she made a conscious choice for a dramatic cut.
Progressively shorter and shorter until she shaved her head completely for her role in Wicked. And this was a deliberate choice.
A challenge to herself. Can she still transform on stage with nothing but her voice, body, and movement?
She even adopted a sort of audition uniform sweater, jeans, flats, along with a shaved head. She wanted to be a blank canvas.
So casting directors would see her, not the trappings of fashion or hair.
Forcing them to visualize her transformation based purely on her talent, not on aesthetic props. Her strength was in her alchemy, not her accessories.
And this demand for visibility goes beyond the stage. It's about global representation. She talks about the awards and accolades, but one milestone held a really deep personal significance.
The Barbie doll. Being approached by Mattel to make a Barbie in her likeness.
And she took control of that process.
She did. She insisted on features that accurately reflected her African heritage. She told them, "I would like my eyes to not be so small. I would like to not make my nose tiny. I would like to keep my lips big and juicy."
And this wasn't just about vanity. It was an act of cultural importance.
It was transformational because it was actively shifting the mainstream idea of beauty for children. It ensured that a black Barbie had distinctly African features, providing that vital recognition and connection for little girls who might never see themselves accurately represented otherwise.
This journey of resilience and identity is so deeply rooted in her family history, particularly her mother.
She calls her mother the original lioness, who instilled this fierce self-belief in her.
And she makes a really key distinction. For a Nigerian parent of that generation, the expectation was often for their kids to become doctors or lawyers.
Her mother was the radical exception. She believed absolutely that Cynthia could be whatever she wanted as long as she worked tirelessly for it.
And that support was hard-won. Erivo shares her mother's own story.
Fighting her own parents to pursue nursing over catering, even hiding her sister's passport to secure passage to the UK. That personal struggle for ambition became the backbone of Erivo's own value system.
If you want something, you have to fight for it, even against those who love you.
And her mother's nurturing was subtle, but so profound. Erivo recalls a period in her late teens when she briefly stopped singing.
Her mother just noticed the change.
And just asked in passing, "I just want to make sure you're still singing." That quiet nudge was the gift. The constant presence ensuring her talent was being nurtured.
A privilege she acknowledges many immigrant children don't receive.
And she grew up in this small South London maisonette. It was formerly a church. In this environment she describes as a beautiful cultural blend.
Nigerian Igbo, Nigerian Yoruba, Jamaican, all in one community.
Which fostered this concept of chosen family alongside her biological one. Neighbors watched over her and her sister when her mother was working double shifts. She was hearing all these different musical styles.
Clive playing male-led reggae, Sharon with female vocalists, Tayo playing Yoruba music and British pop.
All blending together. And it was there that she realized that the African diaspora is often tricked into believing they're fundamentally different.
When in reality, they share these deep commonalities.
And she uses food as a perfect analogy to break down those perceived differences.
Right. Her favorite Nigerian okra soup,
which is this hearty, spicy, slippery stew, is nearly indistinguishable from Louisiana gumbo. Both use okra as a thickener. Both are made in large quantities for the community.
And Nigerian yam porridge,
made with palm oil and spices, is almost identical in texture and preparation to Puerto Rican mofongo.
So this physical evidence, the same food being cooked across continents and cultures,
underscores her point. We're all a lot more alike than we realize. The diaspora is unified by a shared history and a shared cuisine.
Of course, the inverse of that profound family support is the relationship she has with her absent father.
She spends a lot of time contrasting the few sparse facts she knows about him.
His name, his love of Tennant beer, that he can whistle.
Against the endless list of things she doesn't know. His age, his profession, his parents' names, where he lives now.
And the defining trauma, the one that triggered all those years of striving, happened when she was 16.
After an argument about a transit pass, he left her alone in a London Underground station, walked right past her without making eye contact, just abandoned her in that moment.
And she admits spending years trying to prove her worth to him, hoping her achievements would pay him back.
Or at least make him proud. But in chapter 28, she has this realization that his abandonment, while traumatic, was inadvertently a gift.
His definitive ultimate no.
Gave her the space she desperately needed to say yes to herself. The constant pursuit of his approval was draining her. His rejection freed her.
So she's released him from the role of father.
Accepting he was merely meant to bring her to earth. She maintains this state of neutrality about him now, recognizing that carrying resentment is just too heavy. And her conclusion is so powerful. I absolve him, and I am free.
Her self-worth is entirely independent of his approval.
And this comprehensive journey of self-acceptance really culminates in the discussion of her identity, particularly her sexuality.
She reveals that in her family context, queerness was just. It was never discussed.
So she had no vocabulary for it when she first realized around age 15 that she was attracted to both men and women.
And she was afraid that acknowledging it would make her not good.
Just another quality, like being too much, that would lead to more rejection. And that fear, compounded by her father's abandonment, caused her to hide her sexuality completely.
She didn't date a woman until her late 20s.
The process of self-acceptance for her was this gradual dismantling of that fear, realizing that if other people have a problem with her identity, that is entirely their problem to navigate, not hers.
And while she feels free in her identity now, she says her mother is still navigating acceptance.
Mostly worried about external judgment. But Erivo is clear. She is her own person, and she chooses who she loves. She defines her queerness as additive.
The cherry on top of who she is.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't detract from her core self. And she hopes that by allowing her sister space to be fully authentic, she can earn that same unconditional space for herself within her family.
This philosophy of intentional, non-competitive partnership is really showcased in her relationship with Ariana Grande on the set of Wicked.
It's a beautiful example. She describes this magical first meeting where they were just asked to sing one of their songs together spontaneously with no practice.
And their voices are so dramatically different.
Immensely different. Erivo's huge grounded power versus Grande's ethereal, soaring precision. But the sound that came out was this amazing blend.
She said their voices wormed together.
Harmoniously, creating this undeniable magic. And they recognized how rare that was, so they made a conscious, verbal pact to protect and support each other through the whole filming process.
They chose to actively defy that stereotype of competitive female co-stars.
By aligning their needs and always advocating for the other on set, this meant being highly attuned to each other. Erivo needing quiet time for focus, Grande needing connection and collaboration.
They built this profound trust by choosing vulnerability and honesty.
Committing to be present for each other during the complicated moments, not just the joyful ones. And that conscious effort created a genuine partnership that has continued off camera.
Proving that collaboration can be a radical act of friendship.
Then another crucial element of her self-ownership is her choice for privacy in her romantic life.
Which she addresses in chapter 47. She's an artist who shares so much of her soul and energy through her work.
So she keeps her relationships private as a necessary act of self-preservation. Her energy and her happiness are hers first.
And having shared so much of her interior world, she chooses to keep her private life for herself. She's happy knowing she is loved without needing to share the intimate details with the public.
It's about being well-resourced before giving outward.
And finally, she closes the book with this powerful message to the queer community.
Drawing inspiration from Toni Morrison, the function of freedom is to free someone else.
She encourages those who are out and proud to become lanterns for others who are still searching.
She addresses the struggle for basic dignity, using the example of proper pronoun usage, and she notes that the word they is used pedantically to describe two or more people.
But poetically to describe a person who is simply more.
An elegant definition that rejects simplicity and demands recognition of fullness.
And her final call to action in this context is directed toward the invisible ones who are still on their own road to self-acceptance.
For those who have found their voice and their visibility, the true work is ensuring that the ground they leave is level enough, lighting the path and pointing illumination in the direction of someone who needs a little guidance to find their own road.
So if we distill Erivo's entire journey, The essence of Simply More is really this clear, detailed argument for radical self-acceptance.
Absolutely. It shows that the hard, sustained work of discipline like running that marathon gives you the internal resources to face external judgments and historical trauma.
Every external no, whether it's from a teacher, a manager, or a major institution like RADA.
It creates the necessary space for a better, more profound yes. A yes to yourself that resonates deep in your bones.
Her entire story is about trading that lifelong need for external validation for this fierce, unwavering self-belief.
This book is permission. Permission to be full, whole, and visible. It's for anyone who has ever been told they're too much, too loud, too emotional.
Or anyone who's on a journey of self-discovery and is ready to accept that being the fullest, most authentic version of themselves is their primary job in this lifetime.
And here's where it gets really interesting, when you connect it back to the very opening of the book. When she took the role of Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar, she was attacked, called blasphemous.
And this was fundamentally about critics trying to fit a Black queer woman into a role that defied their comfort zone and their biases.
And this constant clashing is the inevitable consequence of choosing to be simply more. When you expand, you force others to confront the limitations of their own expectations.
So the hard-won self-acceptance detailed in this book is her definitive answer to those critics, proving she deserves every single space she occupies.
So the provocative thought we want to leave you with, based on Cynthia Erivo's journey, is this. What is the biggest, most authentic act? The one that feels like it might be too much for others, that you are currently holding yourself back from, simply because you fear clashing with someone else's comfort zone?
Powerful questions. If you found this deep dive helpful and illuminating, please like the episode and subscribe for more first-look summaries and comprehensive analyses of newly released nonfiction books. We'll see you next time for the next deep dive.